Okay, so for the first question, compare our major African American writers we have read thus far, Colin, Hughes, Wright. What are some of the similarities, differences in their outlooks in America? Or on America. So, all three clearly write about racism and about the struggles and obstacles that were faced by African Americans. They also write about, segregation and stuff like that. But all three of them have different ways of approaching the topic. So Colin, the passage about Colin tells us that he wrote about African American struggles, but he did so in a distinctive way from his peers. There's a line that reads in the book. It says he felt a responsibility to write about being black, even if he did so in modes outside of black folk traditions. So he demanded that black poets be considered as American poets. He viewed blacks and whites as the same and that their colors should not set them apart. Hughes writes about the challenges faced by African Americans. He wrote patriotic poetry. So a lot of the poems that we've read about him were very patriotic. I Too Am America, and then The Mulatto Man, and his poems are similar. He also wrote about modern urban black life in his time. His poems were rhythms of jazz music, and he adopted the vocabulary of everyday black speech in his poetry. So again, this is all in the book. Wright, or for the last author, Wright, in the story that we read, The Man Who Was Almost a Man, Wright focused on class. The story is about a young man trying to gain respect or recognition from those above him. On page 1061, there's a line that reads, Wright's growing sense that the hidden anger of black people was justified, and that only by acknowledging and expressing it could they move beyond it. So I suppose most of his stories follow a similar theme. And for the second question, how does Cather explore class structure and elitism in the sculptor's funeral? So when they bring back the sculptor's coffin, everyone that sits there and talks about him or just talks about themselves and just, gives you a viewpoint of what's going on, you can tell that they're very materialistic, which is pretty obvious in the story. They also talk about a lot about money and how that's really all they want, and they're very close-minded, and they aren't very supportive of each other. They're not very supportive of anyone who leaves. The sculptor himself left and made something of himself, and his pupil was just very, very shocked at seeing where his mentor grew up and who he was associated with when he was younger. You see that the people don't really go out, and they're not very accepting of different ways or different ideas. You can tell that in the town everyone's pretty, they criticize each other a lot. They are very judgmental, and all they focus on is money and how to get money. And there's a lot of, even the mother, she seems very nice and she's grieving for her son, but when the servant or the maid, when she messes up one thing, the mother just completely goes off on her, and it's just a lot of, it just shows you that the sculptor has made it, when he was alive, he managed to get away from all of this. He managed to get away from all the materialistic, wants and everything. So them being lower class, all they want is money, and all they think about is money, and they don't really think about each other or each other's success or well-being or anything like that.